Hello, wonderful people. We welcome you back once again to our news digest, the desk of Nicky Bobby, where we always bring you reliable news and information that's quite educative for us to really analyze things or discuss and to reason logically about the facts, the very realities of life. And it is necessary because that's what we are doing. And of course, we wouldn't forget to use this opportunity to entreat you all as you are praying. Do not forget to put our great leader into prayer because, of course, we know that Chukwuka Abiyama will always be with him. But we're going to pray. We need to pray and put him in prayer as well as his family too. Yeah, having said that, so I have a very interesting issue I want us to, I'm going to discuss with you right here. It is an issue that some people do misunderstand me sometimes. And that's why whenever I'm making my broadcast, I try to be as explicit as possible so that you will be able to understand me. I don't like missing words. I use a clear word that you'll be able to understand me. Earlier, I made a broadcast where I told our people that for sure we are under slavery. Whether you like it or not, that is what Nicky Bobby says. If you do not want it, if you do not like it, go ahead and prove it to me that we Africans are not under slavery. If you are able to prove it to me, perhaps I will be able to understand your own points. That's what we are going to discuss further here. But before we go into it, I still want to use this opportunity to urge you to hit the subscribe button as well as to give us likes. If you derive value from the videos we are making, feel free to share our videos to those who might need it. Yes, I said it. Africa is still under slavery. It doesn't matter how you try to defend it. If you have money, if you are rich, if you are a multi-millionaire, if you are a multi-billionaire, and you are an African, that doesn't separate you from it. Not at all. Not at all. In a family where you have 10 persons and only one person is a bit somehow good to do and can feed himself 3 times in a day, that wouldn't stop people to say that if others are not able to feed, if others are poor, that wouldn't stop people to say that this family is a poor family. People will equally go ahead and say it. One person alone is not enough to make a family wealthy. When you talk about riches and wealthy, at least out of that 10, 7 from that family must be wealthy. And by such doing, people will recognize that family as being wealthy or as being a rich family. And that is that. And there is this adage in our own area that our great-grandpeople used to say, that if you use your wealth to build your people, your empire will last. But if you do the other way around, if you use your people to build your own wealth, your empire can never last. It will collapse along the line. So in other words, use your wealth. And when I say wealth, sometimes wealth doesn't necessarily mean in material aspects. It doesn't necessarily mean in monetary aspects. Knowledge and wisdom is part of wealth. Yes. Skill is part of wealth. These are the things. Now, let me tell you something. The entire Africa is in bondage in the hands of the Europe, in the hands of the America. Why do I say so? Because there are some certain situations whereby you want to produce something in Africa, and there is an international law that says Africa cannot produce this crop. You ask yourself, why? Why is it that if I want to cultivate this crop at the backyard of my house, I cannot cultivate it, even though we are the original owners of this crop? But there is an international law that says you cannot cultivate. Do you know the reason? Because that is the way Europeans made it. That is the way America made it. They made it in a way that they will be the ones to tell you the crops you will produce in large quantity, maybe that you will be able to export or you'll be able to service your nation. Do you have that veto power against America? Hence, you do not have it. That means you are under slavery to them. Those who can give you order, this crop, this crop, this crop, you cannot produce it. You cannot give America such order in Africa. Africa cannot wake up and say, America, we do not want you to produce this crop. We do not want you to produce this grain. But these are the things that are encoded in the European laws, in American laws. America tells Africa the type of grain they will be able to produce. If Africa said no, issue will come out. Have you not seen when I tell you that you are still under slavery? I want you to listen carefully to this record I'm going to play to you. Listen carefully. I will equally go ahead to analyze it.
Thank you. I have a question. What's the difference between the U.S. debt and the debt that African nations own? Because the U.S. debt doesn't keep the U.S. from being one of the leading powers of the world, but then African nations can't make it because of that debt that is strangling them.
Thank you. Let me expatiate on the question that she asked. This is a conference. So right now, there is an issue that they said Africa is owing a lot of debt. Debt. When you borrow money from someone, you are owing him debt. While America is equally owing debt, but they say here because Africa is owing debts, that Africa doesn't have some certain benefits. There are some level that Africa cannot operate, but US can operate on that level, even though they are still owing. And this is the question that this participant is asking. Now, let's listen to the answer that will be given to everyone, not only those that are participating in this convention across the globe. Listen carefully.
Okay. The first question is a very important question. What makes African and third world debt different from the American debt? Number one, America is never going to pay its debts. It doesn't have to. Its debts are in its own currency. We can simply print it. The African debt is not in its currency. The African debt is in US dollars. Africa has to earn the US dollars, and the only way it can earn the US dollars is not to be assassinated for growing its own food and becoming independent and doing something that the United States does not like. The principle underlying the foundation of the World Bank, the International Bank for IBRD, research, the World Bank, is that no country should grow its own food. Africa and the third world should only grow export crops. To export, in order to have an oversupply of cocoa and other tropical raw materials, to keep down the price, they must buy their grain from the United States or Europe, so that if they do something that we don't like, we can do what America tried to do to China in the 60s. We can sanction them. We can say, we're going to starve you. We're going to not export any grain to you. So owing their foreign debt in dollars means that they have to somehow sell something that the United States wants, not what they want. I think the most evil organizations in the world today are the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. And my book, Super Imperialism, that I wrote in 1972, is all about that. The largest purchasers of the book were the Defense Department and the CIA. I was immediately, the organization I worked for was given a $75,000, $85,000 Defense Department contract for me to come to explain to them how American imperialism worked, and they used it as a how to do it book. They thought it was just spontaneous, and I had written the book thinking that socialists and third world countries would do something about it, and indeed it was translated into Spanish.
Okay, let's stop here. I hope we are able to understand what he answered. He said that the debt that the United States is owing, that the United States can never pay back the debt to World Bank as well as the International Monetary Fund, that is IMF, that United States and Europe are being exempted, that if they are owing debt that they can never pay. Why? Because the debt they are owing is in United States currency, which is United States dollar. Each time the United States will go and mint the money back. So they don't need to pay the debt. But that Africa, the debt that they are owing is in US currency. And as such, that the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, which this man rightfully called them the most evil organization that they have seen, that he has seen, based on the policies that they made against Africa. He said that the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank made it in a way that Africa will not produce the grain that they will consume, that they must depend on Europe and America. It is America and Europe that will supply Africa the grain that they will consume. So if Africa makes mistake and go and produce this grain to eat, that they are going against the will of America and Europe. Have you heard it? So if they do it, that America will wake up and sanction them and now put a stop that said that they are going to starve Africa. He said that the only cash crop, only crop that Africa is allowed to produce is the cocoa, which they can export. Export to here. If they produce the cocoa, the raw material of it, they send it to Europe. And it's still America and Europe that will buy it and now turn it into finished goods, finished products. Did you understand the analysis, the way I break it down? Can you now begin to appreciate what we are saying? So it doesn't matter how much money, millions you have in your account, you are still under slavery. That's what I'm explaining. So do not get agitated, do not get annoyed because of the words I use. But what I said is the truth. It doesn't matter how much you have, inasmuch you are not allowed to produce your own food. Can any of you in Africa wake up today and ask America, I don't want you to produce this food? Or ask any country in Europe, I don't want you to produce this food? It's not possible. Another area that we are talking is the devaluation of currency. They intentionally devalue the currency of Africa. All African currencies are devalued so that it can never meet up the standard of European and American currencies. Have you now seen that this is a calculated and a planned attempt to put Africa under slavery? Do you now understand what I mean? When I was explaining in my earlier broadcast, I said the majority of people do not know why Biafra is fighting for freedom. They do not know why IPOB is fighting for freedom. And I said, most of us, you should go back and read and understand things that transpired, why we are fighting. Because if you've not gotten this information, I tell you, it knows nothing. Something must have pinched you for you to sit up. And that is why I call on people, those who are creating segregation, in this fight for restoration of Biafra, in the fight for our movement for the freedom, that a lot of them doesn't know. They are just carrying the flag and say, Biafra, Biafra, we want to go. They don't know the core reason why Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, when he looked at all these things, he said, no, Biafra must be free. And when Mazi Nnamdi Kanu said that Biafra is the light of Africa, most of you do not understand where he was pointing. Yes, because if Biafra break free today, every other African country has broken free. That is the fact. Imagine where these laws are being made. The resources that goes to America is from Africa. The resources that goes to Europe is from Africa. And yet your currency is devalued, and they are the one that they produce the grain that will ship to you. You are only allowed to produce cocoa. And how many countries in Africa are producing cocoa? Nigeria, Ghana, Ivory Coast, which is Cote d'Ivoire. Maybe Liberia sometimes produce some quantities of cocoa. What are you using your cocoa to do? Nothing. You don't use your cocoa. The raw material, you export it to Europe. They buy it let me not say export, they buy it and produce chocolate and other things, send it back to you in a higher price. You equally pay. Can you not see that I didn't mince-words when I was analyzing these things? Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has taken years to educate us. So that is why when some people jump into comment section and start saying we are wiser now, we are wiser, I tell you, you know nothing. All these things that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has been preaching since 2010 now, I tell you, most of you, they don't understand anything. It's not about creating groups, breaking out, we have formed our own ESN, we have formed our own name, you call it. You send people to Biafra land, they bastardize the activities of IPOB. Go to Biafra land today and see what is going on. And that's another point that is necessary. I want to give you a security tips. Children are really missing currently in Biafra land, and you find out that there are so many people around here that is doing child trafficking. It's what is going on right now. And you know election is by the corner. You know what Nigerian politicians are capable of. A lot of things are going on. So if you have children back in Nigeria, try to make sure, especially in Biafra land, try to make sure that you do not take your eyes off them. Make sure you guide them. Do not leave them to go anywhere, because they are missing, just like a speed of light. When I bring you information, I bring you content that's educative. If you've not gotten annoyed and angry over this matter, you will not sit up. So there is no better word I can use to express it except to tell you the truth. You in Africa, we, all of us in Africa, we are still under slavery. That is the fact. Let me tell you another example. Have you ever listened to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu when he said he wanted to collect a contract to supply oil palm to the outside world? They told him that Nigeria doesn't produce palm oil. He said no. That in fact around the world that Nigeria is the country that produces. They said no. It's not written that he cannot supply palm oil. You know why? Because in the international standard, International Monetary Fund, they don't record it. They said this will not happen. If Nigeria begins to export palm oil across the globe, that means you become rich. You break free. Your monetary value will increase, because the monetary value of a country is being measured by the resources and the products that the country produces. So if even the palm oil that Biafra produces in the large quantity, even though that the federal government of Nigeria is pressing it down, even though that their stooge, the slave they put as governors are pressing it down, that is why you can never see a governor that is coming from the lineage of the Fulani in Biafra land. For example, the likes of Joseph Carlo, the likes of Imo State administrator, who opposed them, and other governors in Biafra land. They never come up one day and say they want to sponsor agricultural projects. Have you seen anyone? If not Peter Obi during his time. Have you seen any governor in Biafra land within that entire eastern region that say, okay, we are going to carry out a fantastic agricultural project? No way. It cannot happen. Even if that money is released, you hear that the federal government releases money every year for agricultural projects. All these things are lie. When that money is released, the governors will take their own part, the Minister of Agriculture will take his own, other people will take their own one after the other, and they are not invested, they will not invest into agriculture. Go and make research. After making your research, if you get annoyed about our condition, then that we know that you are serious for freedom. It's not all these things some people are doing. Shouting, carrying flag. Because that is why I told you, if you actually know what you are fighting for, you wouldn't come to create set, you wouldn't come to create division in this IPOB. If you actually know that IPOB want to liberate you, you wouldn't one day stand up and start fighting the DOS. That is the truth. You are under slavery. And by the time we say it in a way you'll understand it, then you will sit up and you will know that creating another faction to fight IPOB, working with the DSS, working with the federal government of the zoo to fight your own people where we want to bring liberation to you. You will be able to count yourself as a person that has committed one of the most sacrilege on this earth, because you are fighting against something that will bring you freedom. I will see you on our next broadcast. And I will reiterate that you follow us, you hit the subscribe button, you share our message, you give us thumbs up if you derive value from what we are bringing to you. We must continue. Before Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, a week or 2 weeks that was leading to the rendition of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, he made a broadcast, which I continue directing you to that broadcast. He said that the next 2 weeks will be pivotal in our struggle. A lot of things will happen. And since then till now, this is the situation we are. And I told you that most of us know the extent by which we are. We are different from some of you because sometimes there is difference that you are walking on a road. You don't know that there is lion on that road. So you are just walking ignorantly. Maybe you get down there, you meet the lion, you start running. You start running back because you were not preempted before. Now somebody who was told there is lion on this road you are going, the person say, yes, I know. There are two things, but I will never go back. Either I get down there, the lion, if I meet it face to face, either the lion devour me or I kill the lion and proceed. This is the difference between those who really understand what this struggle is all about and some people who are jumping in and jumping out. So I told you, most of you didn't understand the importance of that broadcast that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu made. He said that these challenges is going to sheave and separate the chaff from the wheat. That is that. We are Biafrans. And I maintain that we are Biafrans. And until Biafra is fully restored, we will not rest. I strongly believe that we have our citizenship in Biafra land. I want to wish you safety and everything you have. May Chukwu Okike Abiyama continue to guide and protect each and every one of you.